Tonight we have Hector Ahumada as our poet, a wonderful poet, and as you've heard from our conversation, an old friend of city art. He's read for my half of the series many times, and I know he read for Sandy's half of the series many times, and wonderful poet. You're gonna love it. And generally, I suspect he may just have a joke or two. I don't know. Could be. So we'll find out tonight. Hector was born in Santiago, Chile. He's a naturalized United States citizen. He won the Mayor's Literary Art Award in 1996 and the Writers at Work Lifetime Achievement Literary Arts in 2008. His writings include some poems in Great and Peculiar Beauty, wonderful anthology of Utah writers, and Sun and Water Poems from Luna's Press in San Francisco, Highland Travelers from Elik in 2003, and Earth and Air and Poems from Elik Press in 2008. So we're really happy to have our friend Hector Ahumada back. Please welcome him.
Good evening to all of you, and what else? What a little audience, I love it. What should I say? My name is Hector, and originally from Chile. I've been blessed by living in the United States for 38 years. And what else? I am a poet, I write poetry. That's all I do. This day, that's all I do. Thank you to Joe Long. Thank you for inviting me to City Art. So let's go to the nitty-gritty thing of poetry. Such an interesting experience has been poetry for me. Really. I want you to read this piece to you with all my good intentions of sharing with you who I am. I have an old Chilean friend, poet. He said, Hector, there are two things you always have to do. You have to tell the people who you are, and you have to check that your fly is up when you are old. So take it in that way, okay? I've been debating this thing. Here I find myself in front of my canto, in front of my responsibility of being a poet, a long journey into my thoughts and actions, into the realm of solitude and silence. My roots are still between the mountains and the ocean, in a big southern town of my native land. I continue anchored to the simple things and to the workers. I come from far away with the music of my language, with the salt of the Pacific Oceans, with the seaweeds and with the clouds. I come to wave, start, and be part of the changes of nature. To endure love and the absence of love, creation and destruction. Tonight, among you, I see poets of my generation. I have been blessed with 2 countries and 3 languages. I express my honor and respect to the local poets. I carry the fundamental mark of our differences. You were born and educated in democracy, and I in socialism. Nevertheless, we're united by this universal experience called poetry. This art that brings together our personal realities and our dreams. Like most of you, I experienced the gift of writing poems at an early age. I discovered the mystic craft of fusing with the language my intimate world with the changes of nature. The abundance of materialism and the voices of the needy. The colors of butterfly wings with the light of the stars in the firmament. The golden landscapes of wheat fields and the petals of poppies and geraniums. With religious commitment, I sang to abandoned objects, to insects and birds, to the enchanting architecture of the female body, to her organs, fingers, and nails, to the corals of the sea, rocks, sands, polyps, fish, octopus, and sirens, to the star of distant galaxies, and to the snails of my garden. I admire the work of Walt Whitman, Arthur Rimbaud, and Adrian Rich, and all the other poets who fear no morality nor immorality. I should admit that poetry is not an easy road in this crazy game called life. I learned from the Chinese poet that true words are not fancy, and fancy words are not true. To end, I may say, I believe in sincerity, authenticity, peace, love, compassion, and true freedom. So now you know a little bit more about who I am and why do I think. This year, the book festival invited many poets from different areas, and one of them was Raúl Zurita. And it was like, who in the hell is Raúl Zurita? You know, Raúl Zurita is a Chilean poet that is one of the most prominent poets at this moment, the National Award of Literature. And Raúl Zurita has a very, it's not a peculiar story, but it's a story. Okay, in 1973, when the militaries decided to materialize the ideas of Mr. Henry Kissinger and Mr. Richard Nixon, the militaries took over and great numbers of Chileans went in exile. I came to the United States, my sister went to Switzerland, and many people went to many different places. And another ones, they went directly to prison. And Raúl Zurita was one of those. They took him, put him in prison, and I think that they tormented and they tortured him pretty much. And not only him, but his mother and father and his brothers. And so Raúl Zurita came to Salt Lake City, and here no one gives a dime. Why should we care about these realities from other places? And I was invited to be his translator. So I went around translating for him. And he read here at the library. And so after it was interesting because from him I learned that sometimes I write little poems, and sometimes I write good poems, true poems. He called them little poems, like little poems. And I said, Raúl, I have a book of little poems that I want to give it to you. He said, yeah, it's okay. And I wrote a poem for him, which is this one. I saw and listened to Raúl read his poems. The sound of the ocean and the entrails of the mountains found fertile soil in my consciousness. The mountains, the ocean, the mountains again. The thousands of humans remain, roll over the sun, down there at the bottom of the ocean. Down there where my cousin Tamin and Carlos rest with no peace. Raoul poems brought into me here and now the horror, the pain, the history of men is rooted in greed and arrogance. The life of men who, from the cave times to New York days, is a song of war and destruction. We're obligated to accept the eternal nature of war. Do we have to be indifferent witness of the crime committed in the name of democracy and freedom? The flesh and bones of my people will return from the bottom of the ocean, from the summit of the mountain, from the uterus of God. Yes, they will return because we're all in the path of return. The executioner, the ocean, the victims, the mountain, the witnesses, the ocean, again and again, they all will return to possess with love and compassion the Garden of Eden again. I saw a defeated man on him. He was younger than I, and he looked like he was 99 years old, curved, walking around. Still very tormented, man. I don't whip myself anymore. I try to enjoy the years that I have left of life. So, this is another poem that deals with that issue, and I know that I'm quite sure that you think about this every day. Why there is such a big mess around? Why do we're starting wars all over the place? Why we're putting the eyes on the Iranians and we want to knock them down? Why are we in Afghanistan? Why are we in Iraq? Why are we in Pakistan? Why are we everywhere? And the mess keep going and getting worse and worse and worse. And the empty hand of the Greek god, his biceps, triceps, fingers, and nails, his perfect anatomy and hair, his mouth with a perfect smile, his torso, neck, and well-formed ears, those eyes. They have seen the secret pleasures of women and men. The will of the god embraced the will of the poet. Homero's Canto, the city, the magnificent city, Helena, the forbidden gift, the war, the battle, the purpose, the pain, the deep lacerated throats, the collapsed lung, the missing legs and the empty orbits, the eternal nature of war, the battle after battle, destruction, misery and death, the roots and desires of new civilizations. A state of continual transition fueled by hatred and greed, and then the war again and again. The non-ending practice of men, the war, the mother, the father, the children, the battles, again and again. Sorry it gets so dark and so, but that's my reality. My reality. I have no idea about your reality. My thought, I cannot see your thought. I cannot see what are you thinking now. I want to, but I cannot. If you give a man a fish, and you know that, he will eat for one day. If you teach him how to fish, he will sit down in a boat and drink beer for a week. Maybe I should find something more more, how do you say, more, so I'm gonna let you go home with a lot of questions. Wow, what a nasty thing. This is a kind of a nice little piece. And the princess slept for 1,000 years. In her dreams, she visited many places, some of them not discovered by man yet. She touched the lamps of gold in the north and asked, what is a soul without a spirit? And the serpent whose head is red has the rose answer, nothing, it cannot exist. He who comprehends the word, comprehend the mystery in which is the root of all things. And around the sleeping princess grew up a forest, a kingdom of honeysuckles and hummingbirds, where at the end of the abstract started the concrete, and at the end of the concrete started the abstract. A place of silence and moss, poppies, irises, insects, reptiles, fishes, and birds. And from the princess' dream, 13 springs give rise to 13 streams whose waters run obeying gravity and grace. The question is now, how do I end this story? Because you know there is no princess, no dreams, no forest, no streams. What I do have is only ideas, words, and sound, a gift of nature, a new experience of life. Perhaps what is left in my mind is the poem. So, since we are so small crowd, I am interested and I want to know your name. I know Malcolm, I know Joel, I know Sandy, and you are?
Carly.
Carlene?
Yes.
And you are?
Arlene.
Arlene.
Tyler.
Tyler?
Kayla.
Kayla.
Max.
Okay. So, before you criticize someone, you should walk a mile in their shoes or not. And that way, when you criticize them, you are a mile away and you have a pair of new shoes. What can we do about this? I had a photograph in my office, black and white photograph of two French transvestites standing by the wall. From distance, they look like females, but if you look closer, and then you realize that they were. And I got a lot of mileage from that photograph, you know, because people would come and say, oh, who are these? And I said, oh, it's my wife and her sister. Oh, okay, you know. What's this? No, it's one of my girlfriends with her. So I always give people different answers, and they always come out with different things. So one day I took it out of there, and people start asking for the two ones in the photograph. You know, what happened to your car you have here? You know. After the removal of the car from the wall, the woman's aura still could be seen. Many thought of them to be transvestites or prostitutes, butterflies of the night, someone said. Definitely, their long dresses were not from this time. One dressed in black with long silk gloves, the other in white but black shoes, cadaveric faces, opium-morphine addict, would be a general assumption close but farther away from the truth. The one dressed in white, blonde, the other one dressed in black, and high-heeled shoes, black hair, and a bracelet on her right wrist. She looked like a young man in drugs for many years, many comments. Great photograph was the most spontaneous one. Sometimes I joke and I said, oh, these are my mom and my sister. They express, freely associating the images with some place in times and human behavior. Una fotografía de dos mujeres, una rubia, la otra de piel blanca con pelo negro, una vestida de seda, la otra de algodón. Enero 24 del año 2001, two human images captured in black and white film. Girls' bodies then, now probably ashes. Just a human graph. Once I thought, why not? Two angels. Why not? Everything changes. Two special spirits out of the Creator's will. Two muses mesmerized by the camera in front of an old world. Innocent pose of perhaps dos mujeres suspended in history. Two foreign virgins waiting for the gods, waiting for the harsh judgment of men. So you see, I write poems to photograph, I write poems to abandoned objects, I write poems to insects, I write poems to things that are abstract, things that are concrete. I prefer concrete things. I have a hard time trying to write about freedom. Equality. Have you ever think about equality? Have you ever find another person with exactly your same IQ? Have you ever found another person with exactly the same genome? Have you ever find, my shoe size is 1030. Yeah, there must be millions of people that have 1030. But we're not equal. When you look around, when I look around, I see diversity. I don't see equality. Can you imagine if all the roses were white? What a drag, huh? Maybe some people would like it. But I see roses, red, yellow, orange. I see such a diversity in every place I go and everything I do. So when I think about that fallacy of equality, and then he said, oh, but these guys must be stupid. We're talking about equality in front of the law. Yeah, sure. Are we equal in front of the law? That tape is like the Force. It has a light side and a dark side, and it holds the universe together. This is about reading, the phenomena of reading. Reading. But now, we're reading less and less and less and less. I don't know, where are we going? Where are we going with this? A man should live 1,000 years, yet at the time of his departure from the world, it seems to him that he has lived one single day. I read in my mind's and eyes one more, the ancient blessing given to me by my father, which I practice under the sun and moon, opens contents, chapters, and quotations. It's like something mystic and magic take place in my brain and heart when I read. So I read, and I read again and again. If a man has a son when he died, the son ought to put dust on his eyes at the time of his burial. as a mark of respect for him, being a sign that this world is now concealed. For when a man departs from this world, his soul is still enclosed him, and before his eyes are closed, he sees certain recondite things which did not see in his life. The reason for doing this is respect. Therefore, the man's eyes should be closed by the hand of the son whom he has left behind. I remember my father's finger on the page and his voice caressing my ear. Read, my son, read. To read is a medicine for the soul. Since then, I believe that books are sacred instruments of life, given to us to enjoy the present, to understand the past, and to imagine a distant future. A man should live 1,000 years. You guys kick me out when you want, okay? I don't know. Now you got a taste of my work. You got a taste of my poetry. You know, I don't like to play games. I like to go straight to the point. You know, I think that poetry is such a personal, private enterprise. You know, where the poet is alone with his privacy, you know, in front of the page, and you have to put it down. A lot of people think that you can divorce politics from poetry. You can divorce social issues from poetry. You can divorce revolutions with poetry. I have found out in my 65 years that it's not, that everything I have read has a content, you know. I imagine, did you enjoy Robert Pinsky? He came over here many years ago. Robert Pinsky, are you familiar with Robert Pinsky? You know who Robert Pinsky is? He was the United States laureate poet for quite a while. He's a Hebrew-American guy. He's amazing. I admire his work. And when he was here, I imagined this piece of work. He said, Hector, there are no rules. Principles can be discarded or amended. Principles discernible of work of art. Poetry is a vocal art. The medium of poetry is a human body. The medium is not an expert body. The medium is the audience body. The reader breathes and hearings embodies the poet work. The centaurs call for both intellectual and bodily skills. It is an ancient art, older than prose. It holds things in memory. Within and beyond the individual life span, it achieves intensity and sensuous appeal. It expresses feelings and ideas rapidly and memorable. It shares those feelings and ideas with companions and also with the dead and with those who come after us. Sincerely yours, Robert Pinsky. Have you ever encountered in your reading the image of the centaurs and that is aiming? Have you ever encountered that image? Yeah, it says that that's what is to write a poem. You know, you're galloping, you're going, and then at the same time you want to hit a target with it. So I wrote back to Mr. Pinsky. And I said, Dear Robert, so I will talk about vocal reality and personal reality. In the beginning, the poet asked, why do I have to write? And there was no answer. And this could be the first two lines of a poem: to create, to express yourself in present or ancestral voice, and to communicate. Then the poet asked again, and the ocean, the mountains, the river, the rocks, the fragile sprouts said to him, why do I have to write? And he said, because. And the poet wrote. Wrote on the sand, on the stone, on the clay, on the papyrus, wrote to materialize a linguistic reality within systems, countries, families, to aim an arrow at a target while riding a horse. Later, after the computers, intellectuals have promoted new ideas about it. It is an elitist tool of modern democracies. It's the opium by which we can propagate ideas. Traditional patterns of art have emerged from selected cultures. I am quite sure that poetry, it is present in all cultures, patterns born from folklore and from non-folkloric realms. For some cultures, poetry became a basic necessity of life. For another, a sophisticated toy of the intellect with admiration and respect. Hector. Any questions? Any criticism or any input? Anybody wants to say something? Open the mouth besides me. I'll let you. Huh?
You're the man.
I let you read. Is it my time? Huh? Well, I don't really. I go for the new stuff. Oh, remember Craig Arnold? Yeah. You don't? You know who Craig Arnold is? Craig Arnold is a very young, and I thought it was a good poet, excellent poet. I thought he knew how to put it together, the equation of a poetry. The balance between emotions and the intellect and between the intellect and emotions. Although some days I am pure emotions and on other days I am pure intellect. Craig Arnold was a young poet, very good poet. He came to Salt Lake City to finish his PhD, I think. And he has 3 publications, I think, one from Yale. And what else? He was very well known in the community of poets here in Salt Lake City. And this sounds like a manga. You know what manga are? Manga books? Graphic novels. This sounds like a manga graphic novel chapter. He was doing research on volcanoes, writing a series of poems about volcanoes. And he went to an island, Japanese island, and in the way up to the crater of the volcano, he disappeared. In the news, they said they found traces up there that kind of suggested that he fell into the volcano or into the mountains. I think he probably went down hundreds of feet. So and what else? I read with him a couple times. I woke up and thought about Craig Arnold, the poet. Then my mind created a flittering vision, the exuberant forest, the moss, the fern, the mushrooms, the trail on the mountain, the thick magma splashing to the feet of volcano with yellow and red and orange. The dance of electrons, the heat and the ashes, the perpetual movement of waves in the ocean. More than a year has passed. His loved ones and friends continue their life under the enigma of silence. With so many questions but no answers, a flock of seagulls stop at the end of the trail. Beyond them, the wheels of destruction are constantly moving. Perhaps it's destiny or fate we will never know. The dead ones do not need anything from us. We do. So they are so close, perhaps among us, our limited senses cannot welcome them. And someday in the future, a young poet will open his books and with admiration enjoy his poems, line after line, like perfect equations of meaning and sentiments, like precious stones and graves on pages, like whispers of beauty in grammar and passion. His image is fainting away from my mind little by little. Perhaps it's because we were not close friends. His poems is all that I have, and that is enough. His verses, skillfully drafted by authenticity and honesty, transform me to a world of love and compassion where the whole universe is a shrimp or a mussel, where I redeem myself from the monotonous chores and find the entrance to his soul. I go to a writing group, and I presented this poem yesterday, and I agree. They told me that, or I should eliminate the word Arab, or should I put more element that would identify the work with an Arab culture. But this is the poem. It's up to you. The two girls are the only survivors. Behind and in front of them, only ruins. 12 and 11 are these virgins. My thoughts find no word, no love. My consciousness is stuck in reason. Find no answer, no serenity, no reward. To write about them, it is not enough. They are two human ghosts in the desert, confused of being alive. No one can stop man's absence of love. The seeds of revenge has been planted. I do not know how to accept their eyes, faces, and hands. The will of men breathes over the corpus of children under the light of the sun. The two Arab girls in front of their lives do not know why and what will be for them. While I force these words over the page, I stop and pray for them. Please tell me where I go from here, because after I saw them, I have no peace. Their faces are with me here and now. To write about them is not enough. So I ask you, what should I do?
Drop the word Arab.
Drop the word Arab.
Because it's universal.
It makes
The
universal.
image
Yeah.
of the two girls is universal.
Or put elements, like at the outside of Kandahar, following the men with the put elements that would create a landscape of Kandahar in Afghanistan.
Well, if you wanted to be just focused on that.
Yeah.
But as I say, the image of the two girls in ruins is universal. You can pick your time and country in parts of the world.
Yeah.
So you can leave it in that creative way for the audience to select their image of how they see that.
I shall never be able to escape from material destruction. There is no remedy, no talisman, no secret equation, no magic. And all the ones who have laughed, cried, and shared life with me will follow the same sacred path of destructions and death. My carbons and hydrogen will return to the petal of poppies, my thoughts in the hearts of geraniums, and my calcium in the flowers of wheat. The water will return to the water. My house's treasures and collections of metal, wood, and paper will pass from hand to hand among relatives until someone deemed them irrelevant and obsolete. The books that I did not read will serve disappointed, and I will discuss with each other about Chinese poetry, the famous Lithuanian writer, the failure of democracy, and the extinctions of languages, and the implant of nanocomputers in the human brain. Nothing important will be left except a few small books of poems that today no one reads. Now, let's suppose that there is another dimension to which we all go after. Let's believe that how is above is below. That somewhere in the universe there is a bed waiting for my tired soul in the absence of a body. Would I be young? Would I be young again? Or will I continue growing old? Will I have experienced everything again? Or will I have the choice to be what I want? If the answer is yes, and then I want to return to the sea. I want to be life for the fish, the corals, and the seaweed. I want to be constantly moving and changing. I want to go to the place where all poets are and to have poetry readings every day. Okay, my last piece, and I leave you in peace. I leave you in peace for tonight. Any questions? Any comments? Nothing, huh? Wow, must be cultural. Okay, this is the last one. So someday I will not return home, and there will be an empty chair in front of the TV. And all those books and objects will be put in cardboard boxes. And no one will water the plants inside the house, nor the ones in the front yard. And the dog will wait in vain, and the people will go in and out of the house in silence. No one of the neighbors will know what happened to the old man who used to water the garden. The mailman religiously will put the letters in the mailbox. And from my grave I will return to the house for 7 days, and I will move from room to room, not using the doors. And I will sit by the window to wait for the ones who wants to love me. And they all will arrive by the 7 days. And after embraces and kisses, we will sing songs to death, and we will drink the wine from above. The day will pass like any other day. And at the end of that month, a for sale sign will be posted in the front yard of the house. And one day, no one will remember the one who used to live in that house, and the years will be followed by centuries, and some of us will be born again, and others will continue the journey. What a pleasure not to depend on the living. Thank you, guys.